The sirens screamed through the neighborhood, red and blue lights bouncing off my windows, and I froze when a bullhorn cracked through the night. "You have 24 hours to vacate, or we'll remove you by force." That was the HOA president, Veronica Blackwood, standing out there with her little army. I clutched the violation papers in my hands, my heart racing, and I couldn't believe this was real. Just 3 weeks earlier, I thought I'd found my dream home. Now it felt like I was under siege. My name's Marcus Sterling. I'm 34, an architect who scraped by in Seattle until my uncle passed and left me his old house by the lake in Marina Cove. I knew it wasn't the fanciest neighborhood, but it had history, and more importantly, it had memories, summers spent fishing off the dock stories my uncle whispered about protecting what's yours. Back then, I thought he was just being poetic. Turns out, he was warning me. The day I moved in, I was hit with the first wave. A black SUV rolled up and outstepped Veronica, mid-50s, silver hair pulled so tight it looked painful, dressed like she was on her way to a hostile takeover meeting. Her eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. "Mr. Sterling," she said, "we've identified 36 violations on your property, structural issues, aesthetic, non-compliance, landscaping, negligence. The fines total $75,000. I blinked at her, laughed even. This house has been standing for decades. Every record says it's in compliance. You must have the wrong place. Her smile didn't budge, but her voice turned to ice. Nothing here is a mistake. If you want to avoid ruin, you'll sell. We already have a buyer. She handed me a glossy folder, hopped back into her car, and left me standing in the driveway, stunned. At first, I thought that this was just typical HOA nonsense. But that night, when I walked the perimeter, I noticed something strange tucked under my porch was a black device blinking red like a tracker. I took photos, my pulse hammering. This wasn't just about fines. Someone was watching me. The next week was hell. Every morning, another letter stuffed into my mailbox, my fence an inch too tall, my mailbox the wrong shade, my deck railing 3 inches short of code. Guys with clipboards and cameras circled my yard like vultures, and every time I confronted them, they parroted the same line, "We're with Marina Cove HOA just doing our job." I called 3 attorneys, all of whom confirmed the same thing. There was no Marina Cove HOA registered anywhere. On paper, this organization didn't exist. Which left me with one terrifying thought: if they weren't legitimate, what the hell did they really want? I tried talking to neighbors, but they shut their doors, pretended not to know me. Only one man, Ted Brennan, an old fisherman who'd lived here forever, gave me the truth. He leaned on his cane, spitting tobacco juice into the dirt, and said, "That woman's poison. She pulled the same stunt on the Kowalski family 2 years back. Hit them with violations till they broke, forced them to sell. Now that house just rots. Nobody moved in, nobody built a thing." His words chilled me. This wasn't about keeping the neighborhood neat. It was about bleeding people dry, taking property, and hiding whatever came after. I went home that night and dug deeper into my uncle's old study. Behind a false panel in his desk, I found yellowed documents. Maps, even coordinates scribbled in his careful handwriting. Notes about a hidden vault, Vault 7, and warnings scrawled in red ink. They'll come for it one day. Protect the legacy. My uncle hadn't been sentimental. He'd been serious. The next days broke me down piece by piece. More harassment, more fake violations, more threats. One morning, I found a rock thrown through my window with a note tied around it. Sell or pay. My savings were draining into lawyers who admitted their hands were tied without proof. I remember one night sitting at my uncle's desk, staring at the papers, wondering if I was insane for holding on. Was I being stubborn? Was I sacrificing my peace, my sanity for a crumbling house and a memory I almost gave up? For a moment, I wanted to pack my bags and run, but then I looked at one of his maps again, traced his handwriting with my finger, and remembered the summers when he'd say, "Someday, you'll need to fight for this place." My chest tightened. He knew. He knew this was coming. And damn it, I wasn't about to let Veronica Blackwood erase everything he protected. That's when things escalated. I heard drilling one night, muffled vibrations under the dock. Peering into the water, I saw faint lights moving in a grid like professional divers searching for something. They weren't after me. They were after what my uncle hid. And then the threat became personal. One morning, a combat knife was pinned into my front door with a note. Sign the sale papers by midnight, or your neighbor Ted goes swimming for good. My hands shook as I read it. They weren't bluffing anymore. I called the cops, but by the time they showed up, Veronica's people had already pulled their cars away smirking. The officers shrugged, said it was a civil matter. Civil matter my ass. Just when I thought it was all over, headlights cut through the pre-dawn fog, but this time it wasn't Veronica's SUV. It was 3 Coast Guard vessels' engines humming low and steady. Out stepped a woman in uniform. Captain Elena Hayes. She introduced herself with a firm handshake, said her father had served with my uncle during World War II. She laid it all out. The so-called HOA was a front for Apex Maritime Holdings, a criminal outfit specializing in looting wartime artifacts. They'd been buying or stealing properties like mine across the coast, searching for hidden caches. And mine, my uncle's house, was the crown jewel. Beneath this lake was a vault containing priceless stolen art and gold my uncle's unit had safeguarded during the war. Apex wanted it, and Veronica was their attack dog. Elena asked for my cooperation, and suddenly the weight on my shoulders felt different. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about history, about justice. And I wasn't alone. We staged the trap that evening. I played the part of the broken homeowner called Veronica, told her I was ready to sell. She instantly invited me aboard her yacht, smug and dripping with champagne. Ted was there, too bound and guarded, looking tired but defiant. Veronica strutted across the deck like she already owned my property, waving contracts and boasting about her acquisition. I pushed, asked why this house was so important, and her pride did the rest. She bragged about her divers, about the vault, about selling priceless art to the right collectors. Every word was being recorded, every smirk caught on camera. I was sweating, heart pounding. But I kept nodding, acting impressed. That's when Elena's voice boomed through hidden speakers. Veronica. Blackwood. You are under arrest for extortion fraud and conspiracy to traffic stolen cultural artifacts. Stand down immediately. The look on Veronica's face, pure fury. In one swift motion, she yanked a pistol from under her jacket and pressed it to Ted's temple. Her guards' tensed guns raised. You think you've won? She spat. One wrong move and this old man dies. Time slowed. My mind raced. Then I remembered the old defense notes on my uncle's maps area, denial systems, underwater deterrence. I glanced at Elena, then down at the sonar display Veronica's crew had been using. We were anchored right above the marked zone. Elena caught my signal, barked a command into her radio, and seconds later the lake erupted with blinding lights and alarms relics from my uncle's wartime defenses roaring back to life. Divers scattered, panicked, abandoning gear. Veronica's guards flinched momentarily, blinded. Coast Guard sharpshooters seized the opening, storming the deck with precision, disarming the men before they could fire. Elena herself dropped onto the yacht from a chopper cool as steel. In less than 3 minutes it was over. Veronica fought screaming but ended up face down in cuffs, thrashing like a trapped animal. Her voice cut through the chaos one last time, spitting venom at me. You don't know what you've done. They'll come for you, for that vault, for everything. But her words were drowned by the roar of rotor blades as she was hauled away, her empire crumbling around her. I stood on that deck trembling, staring at the place where she'd stood so confident minutes earlier. My uncle's maps were safe. Ted was alive, and Veronica Blackwood, the woman who thought she could bully me out of my own legacy, was gone. The night air was sharp, the lake eerily calm, as if the water itself had been holding its breath. For the first time since I moved in, I exhaled long and shaky and whispered to myself, "You were right, Uncle. Some things are worth fighting for. Some battles aren't about property or money, they're about refusing to let bullies decide what's yours."